Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters show, down-to-earth discussions on metaphysics, spirituality, paranormal, and healing topics. The Sedona Soul Sisters are Roz Reynolds, Terri-ann Russell, Melissa Brace, and myself, Ivory Lanou. We have offices in Sedona, Arizona, where we see clients from all over the world. Today's topic is focus on peace. If you have questions and you're here with us on the show, you can raise your hand if you're visible and we'll unmute you, or you're welcome to ask your question in the chat room and we'll answer it as well. For those of you watching later on our YouTube channel, there is an email in the show description that you can send your questions to. We're happy to address them for you at any time. I was thinking about this morning. It's always in the morning where I really start focusing on the topic more than anything. And I was thinking that about this pet peeve I have. And the pet peeve is when people say things like, they'll say, oh, that's just the way it is, or it's always been that way. Even as a child, like that really bothered me. And I remember saying to my dad, well, people could change that. And that's the truth. And when it comes to peace, you know, I hear this a lot. Like you'll hear it on the news, you'll hear it in casual conversation, and people will say, oh, there's always been war. You know, there's always been, people have always hated other people. Okay, just because something's always been that way doesn't mean we're doomed to continue that. So we can all agree the hardest thing, we help people all the time. It's what we do is help people make changes in their lives. And that's the hardest thing you'll ever do, is to change yourself, the way that you think, the way you speak, the way you act. Very hard. And this is what it's about. This is what peace is really about. So yes, it can change. Let's talk about that.
Well, I think for one thing, you know, the most important thing really is creating your inner peace.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have your inner peace, you're not going to be able to achieve, you know, true peaceful focus. And I'm a great person to talk about that. Because quite frankly, you know, I'm a fireball. And I came here like that. So, I mean, it's like instantaneous, like boom, you know. So I have to really get into my consciousness of calmness, peace, focus, etc. And I have to work on that a lot. I mean, I have to spend a fair amount of time in meditation, concentration, prayer, etc. Because it's just sort of my normal nature to go off like Mount St. Helens. So I have to really catch that. And, you know, I hate to say this, but I've outgrown a lot of it now that I'm old. So imagine what it was like when I was young. Oh my. my you know, my life was always about, you know, just I had to spend so much energy learning to control what instantly my reaction was, and then it comes out of my mouth. So I mean, we've talked and we've laughed about that. And of course, I think the number one thing God had in mind in my life was giving me 4 children in 5 years. I mean, there is no bigger training ground than that. So I had to learn. I had to learn fast. But we have to always remember that, you know, what we are sending out, and that energy is received and returns to us. So if you want to focus on peace, you've got to get it going in your heart first.
It's true. It always
and that's
starts
hard.
with the individual, right?
Yeah, that's hard because, like, you know, it is a learning experience. I'm a lot like Roz, and I was very impulsive, very fly off the handle right away when I was younger. And when I had my children, I had 3 in 3 years. And, you know, you can't do that anymore. So you have to learn something new. And I learned to be more grounded, more focused, more intent on what I was putting out there, sort of learning. I grew up with them, is what I figure. I was 21 when I had my first son. So I really grew up with him, learning how to mother, but also learning how to harness that energy. What was I to do with this fireball, this firecracker energy within me, you know? And becoming peaceful was something that I enjoyed, like when I would go into meditation. And I didn't learn meditation till years later, but going into meditation and spending that time going within, it really brings that peace to your life. And then you're able to, you know, deal with sometimes people that are, you know, off the handle a little bit better, rather than just using that reactive personality that you may have.
Very true.
For me, like, it's normal for me to feel very peaceful and serene. It's not normal for me to get angry, to be filled with a lot of discord. And when I am, it's very dissettling to me. And even more so, like, I really think we have to talk about this. We're all so connected. The reason why it's so important you start with yourself is because we're all connected, not just the four of us or all of us listening, but everybody on the planet. You know, you can, this is not about politics. This is just saying humans are connected. And if you have any doubt about that, talk to an empath. You know, I'm an empath. I always have been. So for me, when somebody around me is angry, when they're hostile, when they're any kind of negative emotion, it hits me like a punch to the stomach and makes me feel really sick and off center. And I might be sick for days afterwards. So that's part of the reason, like, I trained myself to be quiet as a child and kind of contain my energy around myself. And it was part of my protection because I knew I was sensitive. I did not know that meant being an empath, that type of sensitivity. And I didn't have anybody to teach me protections for that. But I feel it. And I've said this before, like during the pandemic, early on, after things really started rolling in March, there was a time when I was doing my nighttime intention, and in the middle of it, I got hit by a wave of emotions that literally took me down to the floor on my knees, and I couldn't breathe, and it scared me. I didn't know if I was having a heart attack. What is this? You know, am I dying? Help me. And I was scared. And then it happened 2 more times to a slightly less degree in the next few weeks. And it was all about this emotion around the planet. So if a lot of people are afraid, if a lot of people are angry, then the energy of our planet becomes primarily that of anger or fear or both. And it is affecting you, even if you're not an empath. It is affecting you in ways you're not even aware of.
I think recognizing that a lot of this starts with us, impacts our empathic nature too. You have to realize that you're, you know, being conscious constantly of your responses, your reactions is a very important aspect of dealing with, you know, assisting mankind, assisting the earth, people on the earth, because we never think about how powerful our energy is. You know, we're not thinking that our here we are. People always say, you know, well, I'm just one person. Well, like, what can I do? Oh my gosh. You know, if you get your inner balance together and you're projecting out love, light, balance, healing, you're doing a lot already. And you just have to realize that, and it magnifies because everyone that we touch, it increases. So it's very important to recognize that. And I think a lot of people, you know, life has slowed down actually a little bit pleasantly in some ways during the pandemic. People are not struggling with commuting, struggling with, a lot of the things they were struggling with before in terms of their job stress has changed for those people who are working at home. But then you have the other people who have lost their job. So the bottom line here is always focusing on keeping you managed, keeping you in the place where you need to be. And focusing on peace for the world is also, a very powerful aspect.
So we have a question from Yvonne. She says, I feel so sick when I'm around a negative person. I've always just removed myself from the person or situation. And I've always had this doubt. Is it okay to remove myself from negativity? Or am I being a coward by not trying to somehow shift the situation or try to reason with said individuals? What do we think about this? I don't think you're wrong, Yvonne. I mean, you have to protect your energy. And I got to tell you, I do the exact same thing. If somebody starts to get negative, I try to redirect them. I try to calm them. But at some point, I have to make a decision that this is damaging to me. And I know I can't afford to spend 5 days feeling sick because I've been affected by negative energy. So at some point, I have to cut my loss and say, okay, I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to get away from this, because you can't change other people. You can only change yourself. You can influence them through your behavior, through your energy. Being around your energy can make them feel better and start calming down, but it also can affect yours to be around toxic people. Any other thoughts on that, ladies?
Well, everybody kind of has a different level of sensitivity. Mm-hmm. And the more empathic you are, the harder it is. So I think if you have to remove yourself from a situation, because we've all been in those situations where suddenly we connect with someone, whatever that circumstance is, and we realize immediately that, we just need to get them out of our field. And there's nothing wrong with that. Realizing that you need to get away from that, rebalance yourself. I mean, we have
and
a lot of circumstances like that.
And realize how you feel afterwards. Notice how you're feeling when you're with that person, and then when you remove yourself from the situation, and see the difference in how you're feeling. What I teach a lot of my clients is to get into that feeling aspect of their body, because your body will tell you. I mean, if you're with somebody and you're feeling sick or agitated, usually once you remove yourself from them, you can then be more peaceful. And it's always like, when you're having a bad day and you spill your coffee and you hit your toe and you're like, this is going to be a sucky day. And the whole day sucks. And it's like, wow, and you go on. And when you get home, you're like, all right, how could I have done that differently? Or what could have been different about that? And if you can get into that meditative state and bring yourself, do some deep breathing exercises we talk about a lot, coming back to center who you truly are. That will really help you then start to get into that feeling of things.
I agree. I was thinking about this morning because I was kind of doing my morning prayers and meditation, and as we all know, part of my lifetime work is to learn how to help clear some of these lower energies and thought forms and connections, attachments, and things like that. So I thought, oh, well, I need to take a salt bath this morning because I was a little bit agitated with the energies this week, slightly. And I was praying in the tub and I was like, oh, and we need to have compassion for ourselves, because it always comes back to ourselves as we're learning how to, not take offense or take on the other, the toxic people or the situation, circumstances around us. And I, there's been a few times in my life where I've had to do it like, 500 times in a day, come back into, right back into myself and go, okay, it's only you. You're only responsible for you. And then work on those pieces. But the compassion has been a hard one to receive in myself, because I came from a place of extraordinary abuse, and that also leads my energy field to be more open than I would want. So I have to really pay attention, like Ross was saying earlier, like you kind of have to just kind of check yourself and take the first step in you first. And so and when I was in the tub, I was thinking, okay, have compassion for yourself. You are, your heart is on the right track. You're doing this. You choose the light. And the other part was to hold hope and not get pulled down into the craziness or those people's perspectives or reactions or things like that. And by the way, I also am the Aries who have fire
in one place.
I have a few things to say sometimes. So it just makes me giggle when we all kind of go there. We go, oh yeah, we're strong. We're strong. All four of us are strong, cute little ladies is what I think. Strong. But to hold that compassion and hope and just not force, but like choose over and over to go back into that peaceful state within, like we were saying, makes all the difference. And sometimes it almost like not rejects, I don't want to use that word, but pushes away the other people's distortion or their hatred and anger or degradation or whatever's toxic coming at you. And and like Ivory was saying, it to build that protective shield up when in doubt, when we don't know, and that can keep us in our own cocoon of light and peace. And I think it's a really good question, but to keep clearing away all the stuff and go, oh, and the toxicity is, I think that's a really good way to keep us moving forward instead of going down into
dragged back. I always feel like I've been dragged back if I can't, just detach, get my balance back. It's like I'm being dragged backwards into old patterns of behavior, which don't serve us.
We have another question from somebody else kind of building on the previous one. And she says, even if it means you don't get to see your grandchild, that it's a toxic parent of the grandchild. Wow. I think we all have had experiences with family members. Everybody does. I mean, every family has people who are easy to get along with, people who are moderate, and people who are difficult, right? So yeah. It's bound to happen within the family too. And right now, during COVID, makes it a little harder. I'm a grandparent, and the first thing I thought when I read your question was, I'm like, well, I guess I'd go pick up the grandchild and take them out somewhere, just the two of us, because I'd like that anyway. But that's kind of hard to do right now. But maybe you could take them to a park if you live in a place that's not too snowy and cold right now. That's a tough one though. What would you ladies say about that?
I think it's important when you have a really toxic family member to recognize, like Melissa was saying, that's them. That's not you, and they have a distorted view of you. So it's really like, it's a fine line when it's family. It can be very, very difficult. But I think staying in that place of hope, of trust that everything will work out for our highest and best is also very important. Trying to, if it's a grandchild, trying to have a relationship. Right now there's a lot of laws about grandparent rights. So there are ways to go about it where you don't have to deal with a toxic child or a toxic in-law. So there's grandparent laws, where you can see your grandchild without that person involved. So nowadays there's many things that you can do. But it is a fine line, and it is about getting to that place of peace. So, you're not going to change anybody. You can't change them into somebody you wish they were. You can't. It took me a long time. That was one of my hardest lessons, was to realize I could not change anybody else. I had to really work on me and focus. And organically, everything seemed to flow that way. So what do you think?
I totally agree. I mean, I want to say too, I do think that I'm always one to look at the gray area. So there's a whole lot of gray area between having a great relationship and having no relationship with somebody. And I'm finding in my own life that there's people I deal with who say some pretty toxic, mean things. And I had been just sort of taking it and not saying anything because the whole thing, what Terri-ann was just saying, I know I can't change another person, but then I had like this little light bulb moment. And I'm like, don't I owe it to this person to at least let them know how they're making me feel and then see if it makes any difference? And so I did say that very recently to somebody. I said, do you realize when you say things like that, that hurts me very deeply? And I mean, I could see a change go over them where they just had not really thought about it. They thought it was funny. They thought it was just part of their charm somehow. And so we'll see. You know, I think that the rest of that day, there was definitely a positive change with that person. So I think sometimes it can be good to just step outside of your emotions and just calmly let them know how they're making you feel with specifics of what they're saying or doing. And then maybe leave, give it some time, and when things calm down, try it again. And if it happens again, say, I just want to point out that you're still doing this XYZ, or talking about, you know, saying whatever it is that's hurtful. And if this continues to happen, I'm just not going to feel comfortable being around you. It's too painful. And I mean, that's honesty. That's opening up, and it's honesty about how something's affecting you. Now, again, you have no control over what that person's going to do, but at least you've put yourself out there. You've said how it's making you feel, and you've given them a couple of opportunities to make change, but then it's all up to them. But this is about you finding peace within yourself, and you can't find it if you're continually being battered by words or actions. It's impossible, you know. So
good point.
Sadly, that's just the truth.
I also think, you know, being straightforward in that kind of circumstance, I mean, they may have an unpleasant reaction, but you got to speak your truth. Mm-hmm. And really say, hey, you know, I just can't be comfortable in this with this constant negativity. And let them contemplate that a little bit. Because in reality, for someone to say that to you, that encourages them to shift their focus to their behavior and peacefulness. So, and inner calmness.
A lot of people are just saying things and behaving in a way that's a pattern for them. I think many people are doing this, like they saw their parents do it. They grew up doing this. They've always done it. They just never gave it any thought. And maybe nobody says anything to them. So, you know, don't be expecting miracles, or that your words are suddenly going to shift them into this glorious, cheerful person. It could affect some change, but it's part of helping you find your peace. Because if you're filled with resentment, if you are feeling anger, you can't find peace within. And again, all of that energy that you feel radiates out around you. And then we're all joining our energies together, and our whole planet can be immersed in a positive energy instead of the negative ones that we've been in for a long time. And this, we're not talking about a particular region. This has been worldwide. And it's been worsening of late. So we're not going towards a place of enlightenment lately. We are sliding backwards, but we have some control over it by just starting with ourselves. And so the hardest thing, we talked about it earlier in the show, and we're going to talk about it more, but I know Terri-ann cannot be here for the entire show, and she has prepared something for today for us that's going to be a guided meditation for peace within and peace without. And I want to be sure she gets a chance to do that with us, because doing this all together, even if you're watching it later and doing it later, it's powerful. So thank you for helping us with this.
You're welcome. I think, and I think that's really important for people to see too, is when we do focus on that inner peace and we can visualize that peace coming from us and radiating to others, we don't have to know whether it's making a change or not. We feel that change then surrounding us in our family. And then as it goes outwards, it goes out to our community. So we don't have to necessarily, it's not an overnight process. It's not like we sit there and we spread this love and light everywhere and everybody's like, oh my God, the world is great. But it's a constant effort to do that. And we make time to make sure that we do that, because I think that it helps not only us, but then it helps other people who are around us, and it feeds off to one another. Don't let anybody tell you that one person cannot change the whole world, because as you begin to change, you change the others that are around you, and it is like a domino effect.
Very true. Simple but profound.
So let's do our guided meditation while Terri-ann still can be with us.
Okay. So just close your eyes and begin to come to a place of power, whether that be your heart or your crown chakra. Take a couple of deep breaths in and outwards, releasing any negativity, any fear, any resentment that you're feeling in your body. As you focus on your breath inward, I'm going to set a sacred container of light around all of us that are on the call and all of us that will watch the replay. All that will be listening today, and the collective energy in the world. As I set this sacred container of light spreading around us, it creates a bigger and bigger resonance of the true light that lies within us. Begin to see this energy and this light spreading out from your sacred container to your family, lighting up each one of them, and then out to your friends, out to your community, out to your state, your country, Gaia, and the universe. As you take a deep breath in and release all that, I want you to fall into your heart space. Feel your heart doing the breathing for you. In and out, and up and down. Trusting that you are the divine, remembering that you are a divine light that plays an intricate role, an intricate part, a piece of humanity together. As you breathe in and out, begin to visualize your heart space expanding, this beautiful emerald green light. As you see this emerald green light coming out, you bring peace and hope and love not only into your heart, but the heart of others. And speak your intention silently in your mind for world peace and the joining together. And let your requests be heard, knowing that we are divinely guided and protected always. Know that all things will be right when you let your worries go and focus on the blessings that are in front of you. Bring that energy out and focus on us being together as a humanity, living from our heart space, creating a direct resonance of light within and light outside of you. I want you to begin to see a divine light coming down from the heavens above, going through your crown chakra, lighting up all the cells in your body, bringing peace, light, and love through any difficult times. And let us have faith that the divine is working to protect, heal, and release through the next phases of our planet. Envision your world coming together, as a community with togetherness and hope, having faith and trust that any discord will show us the light. And as you lift your light, you will bring light to others. Begin to see that peace in your heart, almost as if it's a clock turning, turning, and turning. Pray for peace and pray for presence of those around you and those in the world. As that light goes through your head and down your body and out your feet, I want you to anchor your energy into the earth with these strong roots growing down. Imagining that that light now is spreading to Gaia, giving Gaia the peace and the energy to keep going. And asking that the divine light of Source join us together now. And as it floods through each of us, we create a new energy of the divine within each of us. Learning how to live from a heart-centered place. Forgiving those who've wronged you and moving closer into the light. See your community coming together in togetherness and hope. Sharing, caring for one another. Uplifting all of humanity with it. And as the light gets stronger and radiates out further and further, feel how important your peace is in all of this. Knowing that your divine connection to Source is a powerful one. And you have the ability to create the life that you desire. So feel and see all of that happening now. Breathe it in and breathe it out. And call on your angels and guides and ask them to help you through any difficult times. But remain focused on all of that coming to the light and uplifting us all. So take a deep breath in and out. And take a moment to notice how centered in your body that you feel.
That's what peace
How do you ladies feel? And so it doesn't take a long time to really bring that peace to your heart and doing that visualization and that breathing and bringing it all together and focusing on not so much the bad stuff that's happening, but how you can bring that peace in and how you can shine that peace out.
Absolutely. And, you know, one thing I think we absolutely have to talk about before we go too much further in the show is some specifics. We touched on it, but specifics of what you can do to get yourself to that place of peace where you're feeling it more inside you. Yvonne said she found that to be very powerful. She can't stop crying. Yeah, tears are in my eyes too, by the way. Some things that you can do, we talked about it like it's policing yourself, really watching your thoughts. So if your thoughts slide out of a place of peace and love, you know, positive emotions, really examining that, like what's brought you off center and what's that about? Is that serving you? How does that make you feel? How does your energy feel? How does your body feel when you're in an emotion, a negative emotion? And then intentionally shifting it to something more positive. You know, that can be hard to do, but one way I almost always, I shouldn't say always, there is no absolute, but almost always I can help myself if I think what's the most positive reason that person may have said that or did that, you know, and it's almost always I'll come back to, oh, well, I know something's going on in their life, you know, either I'm aware of it or I just suspect there's something going on in their life, but it comes back to that whole thing of not taking things personally because it's almost always about that person and not about you. That goes to everything that happens to you. whether it's something somebody did, it could be somebody cutting you off for a parking place at the grocery store. It may be because they're having a terrible day and they just lost their temper and took it. They knew it was rude and mannerless, but they did it anyway. But it's not because they don't like you. It's not because they're declaring war on you. It's about their bad day. They just need to feel victorious over something. So that's one way, that you can find this peace, is just to not jump to the worst conclusion about things that happen around you.
That's very true. Control of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your mind on task of seeking light and peace. So it's very difficult right now, I think, because people are very distracted by everything that's going on in the world, and that can start a whole chain reaction. So I think just keeping your mind in realization that everything starts with our inner self and what we seek. So, very good point.
And it changes your perspective, right? I mean, if you're talking about the guy that cut you off or the guy that stole your parking spot, a lot of times without going into that reactive state, I'll just send them some Reiki or some energy, because you don't know what they're going through. You can assume, that they're having a hard time in their life and maybe they needed that spot or they needed to be in front of you for an important reason. But I always try to send them light and love, and it doesn't always work. Sometimes I'll curse them out and then I'll think to send them light and love.
Yeah.
But it is a process.
Yeah.
But you're catching yourself quickly before you maybe you said a couple words and then you realize, oh my gosh, I'm losing my temper. I'm responding in anger, which is not a good idea. Take a couple seconds, think about it, get yourself centered. And maybe you shouldn't respond at all. Maybe responding is not even in your best and highest good. Is it going to pull your whole day off center for you to get the high word, to get your last word in with somebody? Is that worth giving up your peace? And I almost always think it's not. But I'm not an Aries. I should put that out there. I'm a Virgo.
Very different reactions. I will say.
I usually get very quiet and I think about it.
Yeah. Aunt used to always tell me, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I would be like, what? But he was right.
Was he a Virgo?
He was a Gemini.
Gemini, there you go. That's good. They see both sides of a situation. So
Yeah.
That's good. Another thing is also your actions. So, if you're going to do something, are you doing it out of ego? Are you doing it because it's helping somebody, because it's a positive force in your life or someone else's? All of these things that we think about, it can be small actions and it can be up to big actions. But when we take just a few moments to really think about it before we do it, that's how we slowly train ourselves to live in a place of peace and love. And I'm telling you, enough people do this around the planet and there will be a massive change. This is not new age woo woo. This is the truth.
I think, people are recognizing more and more that, the physics of energy, the amazing effects of energy, are something. It's a tool that we can use all the time in our lives. And once you really start monitoring that, creating that energy field around you, and dealing with, in some of the things we've talked about, some of the examples, not just with family, but wherever we are, we're going to have a tendency to react. And, we're really, it sounds so simple, but it isn't. it requires deep inner work. So just staying on that focus all the time is important. And I feel like right now, the world is just in such an uproar, because of things we're dealing with so much. And it's an important time to recognize that we are being impacted by all these things, and so is everyone else. So let's send some kindness, love, and compassion, as Melissa was saying, to have a little compassion.
Terri-ann said it, and I totally agree with what you said, Terri-ann, that when you are in a situation, maybe somebody acts rudely, does something unkind, you don't, maybe the natural human reaction is usually to respond with anger, to tell them off, in some way. But if you can respond by sending a blessing, sending love, you just get into the habit of that. I'm going to give you an example. It's running through my mind. It was something that happened during the pandemic, and I was at the grocery store in Sedona, just picking up a couple of things. I had popped by the office, and I'm getting ready to go. I'm at the front of the line, like next to go in line at the checkout, and they opened up another line, and the gentleman said to me, "Next in line," and he pointed at me, and two couples went up in front of me to that line. And I usually would say nothing. I just usually would not say nothing, would say anything, but I actually was under a real time constraint. And I said, I didn't say anything at first, but then they opened up another line, and he pointed to me again and said, "Next in line." And a couple who wasn't even in line went and got up there. And I said, "Excuse me, but I'm next in line." And they're like, "Oh, you want to come up here?" "Yes, I do." I said, I'm under a deadline." "Well, so are we." And I didn't get into the whole thing of like, I'm the next person in line, but I went in, I paid for my things, and the lady behind me says, "Well, you're welcome." And I thought to myself, you jumped in front of me, you spoke rudely to me once, now it's a second time. And I thought, is there any value at all in me pointing that out? And I thought, no, these people are stressed. I could feel them. If I tuned into them, I could feel they were stressed. And it wasn't about the grocery store. They were stressed about life in general, everything happening. They were at their breaking point. I worked in mental health. I know it when I feel it. And I just said, "Thank you." And it deflated them. Like instantly they were fine. And I thought, that was an example of like, I was right. But did I need to hammer that home? Would that have done any good at all? Would it have made those people calm down, feel better in any way? No, it wouldn't have. It would have made me feel a little bit better, but I really tried to take the high road on that one and just let it go. And so I know that's not going to create world peace in that moment, but little moments like that times a million do.
Bye, ladies.
Bye. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
We're talking to Terri-ann, not all of you. She has to go. So we all have examples like that in our life, things that happen, just little moments that it's like a turning point for us. You are given a choice. Are you going to choose to escalate the situation, diffuse it, send peace to it? What are you going to do? What are you going to choose for your own energy? We talk about this at Sedona Soul Sisters a lot, and I kind of want to get back to this. How many years people believe that an aura was a made-up thing? And then equipment was invented that can take pictures of it. And I remember when I first had a picture taken, an aura picture, it was a long time ago in the 80s. And I experimented because I was still a little skeptical, as I tend to be. I know that's funny for a psychic medium to say, but I had 3 pictures taken, and the first one, I just sat there and was just sitting there existing. The second one, I thought about my husband at the time. The third one, I sent out healing as if I was doing a medical Qigong energy healing. And the aura was distinctly different for each one of those. And it was very interesting because the analysis of the colors that became more predominant matched exactly what I was thinking about. And that was one of the things that proved to me that it was real. I know for Roz, who sees auras, she's always like, if I'm sick, she's like, You're not well. Your aura's brown. So she can see it with her eyes. I don't
That's
see
the way
that
I
with my
sound
eyes.
too. Oh,
That's
terrible.
just one example. You know, science is proving things. It's showing us that energy is real and everything does have energy, and auras are a real thing. And your aura is your little bio, it's your universe, your individual universe, and you control the energy of your little auric universe. And I think that's a helpful way to look at it. You are in charge of it. Do you want to let in anger? Do you want to let in pain and hurt? Do you want to keep it centered and send out peace?
It's so interesting because someone said to me yesterday, well, you know, how how do you handle this? You know, how do you respond to these things? And I just said, I don't allow it in my field. Our auric field extends out usually about to where our hands extend out if we, have our arms out. And you can create a white light bubble in that field.
Mm-hmm.
And you can control what is allowed to come into your energy field. And I think that's an amazing tool. It certainly has been for me.
And that would be
Um,
helpful for the person who asked about uh, maybe dealing with a toxic person, keeping you from seeing your grandchild. I do put myself in that bubble before I'm going to be around people I find difficult for me energetically. It helps a great deal.
it's a good thing.
You know, one of the things that I do often, actually, that I learned a long time ago while I was in the middle of trauma of toxic, just predator. I mean, my background is ridiculous. But I had to learn the hard way of things. And one of my favorite things that I do, that sometimes when a toxic person or a circumstance, sometimes the world has stuff that makes us feel small and hopeless and beaten down, like the circumstances in the world, right? It's just heavy. So sometimes, and I kind of did this morning too, to kind of get myself back in alignment, like back in order, is I do my protection field, my little crested protection field energy. And I imagine myself standing up straight and no longer as small and beaten down. And then I'm bigger. I'm as big as the room, and I'm as big as the house, and I'm as big as the sky, and I'm as big as the universe. And I feel that strength come in, and I ask God, I go, look, I don't know what to do. So can you help me have a little bit of just help, little divine intervention out here, and it helped me feel big. And I asked for the big clearing of my energy, whether I'm conscious of it or not, whatever's going on. And that sometimes makes me come back into my wholeness, peace a little bit, and I can kind of feel God kind of giving me a little bit of hug and go, you can do this. You can get through the bad toxic day, or you can get through the stuff that confused you or made you feel doubtful about yourself. And that just feeling real big and like just a big sunshine of light. And it just helps like push off some of the pain and the wounds that we have, and again, come back in peace and help me take a minute to learn how to do my boundaries better than going back up and having a little bit of a explosion instead. So it gives me a minute to think, how can I react in compassion, peace, and also share with and connect in the unity in a positive way. But that it sounds dorky, but it's like I just get as big as the universe and some of those big heavy pieces. And what the toxic people have done or said, those attachments go choosh and pull off, and in those energy fields, and it's just kind of creative. But it's those like you were saying, Ivory, the aura, and yeah, it's usually smaller, but sometimes just to do a little healing and get back in alignment with like the divine order of peace.
I
expand?
ask my angels every single night, through when things were scary, and things are not scary now, but I ask them, help me be brave and strong, and help me radiate light and love to all that I interact with. And I think that that kind of thing is important too, because I'm an angel person. I'm just going to put it right out there. That's the core of my work. And it's not like I planned it to be, but the angels had other plans for me. So I just want to say that they want to help us. They're talking a lot about what's going on in the world right now and what's going on in our country. And they want to help us, but you have to ask for that help. Otherwise you're exercising your free will, and they respect that. But when you ask them for help, I find that right after I ask for that, I always feel this just huge wash of peace go over me, and I feel calm, and I go right to sleep, and I don't get the monkey mind. If you don't meditate, monkey mind is when your mind's just whirling with thoughts and you can't get it to stop, and it keeps you awake. Or it can be even in the daytime. We can all have monkey mind, but your angels want to help you, and they want to help us through this situation. They're distressed by what's going on, and this wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't our plan, the plan for our planet. So anyway, just had to put that out there. So you're not on your own with this. It's not all about you. If you feel like you're not making progress, you can't quite get there, please ask your angels. Just in your own words, ask them for the help with the specifics that you need. And Kathy, thank you. She said, you ladies always help me. Well, we try. We're here for you. And I'm going to put it out there again. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover, please email us. The email address is on our YouTube channel, or you can go through our website. But we are very open. We do a lot of our topics are given to us by people who are watching the show, clients, and just going about our lives seeing clients. If we keep having a lot of people coming in for a reason, we figure, okay, well, this is a timely topic. Let's hit on this one. So any other further thoughts about peace today, ladies?
I feel like we covered it pretty well.
I feel like we did too. And I want to thank everybody who's here with us. And thanks for your questions. We love them. A reminder that if you're watching this on YouTube, the email address to send questions to is in the show description. We're happy to answer them even after the show. So thank you for watching the Sedona Soul Sisters show today. If you'd like more information about us or our services, we invite you to visit our website, sedonasoulsisters.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is the Sedona Soul Sisters Metaphysical and Healing Center. Tune in next week when our topic is, what is it? Thriving spirituality in today's world. That sounds like a good one. In the meantime, we hope that you have an enlightening week.
Enjoy.